Well, there's an upside and a downside to the current popularity. The upside is basically that 20, 30 years ago, if I used the term Kabbalah with anybody, I'd be dealing with blank stares, or people scratching their heads. So the recent upsurge in popularity of Kabbalah has actually brought the concept that Kabbalah exists out of the shadows into more normative consciousness, to the mainstream. So that's very positive, I think, because the Kabbalah, like other spiritual traditions, has a lot to offer in terms of where we are now in our lives and where things are developing and what the needs of people spiritually are going to be in the future. So I think that's very constructive. The downside is there's a lot being propagated or taught as Kabbalah, which to some degree or another may be connected to Kabbalah or may not be. So there's a confusion factor that's also in operation, which is more problematic. That there are some forms of Kabbalah that are clearly people teaching Kabbalah that are coming from the traditional sources and that are coming from traditional knowledge, and that are people that have studied this for decades. There are also people that are teaching Kabbalah in which the Kabbalah that they're teaching is more self-help than it is an esoteric tradition. That what they've done is they've taken the self-help approach, self-help concepts, and woven them into a sort of Kabbalist context, which is perfectly fine, but it needs to be understood as self-help, the Kabbalist version, as opposed to Kabbalah, which is a different business. And then there is, unfortunately, some people dealing with Kabbalah in which their knowledge of Kabbalah is not sufficient enough, and they're tying Kabbalah or Kabbalist concepts or teachings to other esoteric traditions that sometimes fit and sometimes doesn't fit. So it's sort of like the popularity has produced a whole spectrum of different things being called Kabbalah that run from the very traditional, very esoteric, very internal, very spiritually based, to the other end of the spectrum, which is sort of kindergarten metaphysics.